And really, RB Leipzig have barely laid a glove on City. The only goal, though, scored by Phil Foden after excellent work by Rico Lewis. City have had 2 or 3 other good chances as well. Haaland with a couple of cross shots that have, on one occasion, flashed across the face of the goal. The other was parried away by Blažević. Foden's had a couple of other efforts as well from good positions. And, well, it has been a very much dominated first half by the Blues. But at half-time, it is just the 1 goal between the two. It is RB Leipzig 0, City 1. Well, let's go back to the studio and we can join Natalie.
Welcome back to Matchday Live. So that is half-time in our Champions League fixture against RB Leipzig this evening. City leading 1-0 at the break. I'm still joined in the studio by Nedum Onuoha, Steph, Houghton and by Shaun Wright-Phillips. So City's goal there, 1 for the Academy. And just after it was scored, Steph, you said, and made by the Academy that. And it clicked. It was delightful to have those 2 Academy players involved.
Yeah, what a goal. I think City have totally dominated this first half. I think in terms of possession, I think, what were we saying, 70% possession maybe? I don't know, Nedum was the stats person.
Yeah, it's higher. It's
72.
Okay, yeah. 72. But I think we obviously spoke about before the game about where Rico Lewis were playing. We thought we'd be a bit more Houghton, but actually he's the one that's getting forward on that right-hand side, and he gets past the defender and he puts it across to Phil, and for Phil to finish with his right foot was a great finish, and yeah, thoroughly deserved.
Yeah, we talked before the game about where Rico might be playing. We thought maybe closer to a Rodri type centre of midfield. And then all of a sudden, the first time I look, and he's like the highest person up the pitch. Shaun, where is he playing?
Well, me and Nedum noticed a few things in the game, and it's almost like when Akanji steps forward into, say, the Stonesy role, I feel like Rico moves further forward, but he's almost playing like how Gundogan plays when Gundogan makes those third men run into the box, and he's picking up some great positions in the holes as well, in those little gaps that are being created. But like Steph said, it's honestly, Leipzig have surprised me. I'm quite shocked at the way they're playing, the lack of aggressiveness in their team. They're kind of letting City dictate, which I think none of us expected here. So City are playing that well at the minute. There are a few loose passes that they are doing, but it's just part and parcel of the game for me.
Did you know that Rico Lewis, because I think he's just having a fantastic game, did you know that he had this position in his locker as well?
Yeah, I think he did say that when in the academy he was playing midfield and alike. So I think he did have the potential to be in there and to start in there and to stay in there. I think in terms of his ability to make some of those third man runs, as Shaun was saying, I think in the Man City podcast he was saying how one of his people he looked up to last season was like Gundogan. So that's someone that's going to be a role model throughout his career, and what an opening year to have when Gundogan's impact was probably as big as it's ever been for a player, say, at the football club. And Gundogan was so good at making some of those runs just off the shoulder, staying a bit higher, sort of buying your time in terms of when to come to the ball, understanding when to stay a bit further away from it and just receive it instead of going to just try and claim it. So I think he did have it in his locker. I think he's learned from someone pretty special, you could say. So it doesn't surprise me at all, and he's someone who wants to learn, wants to get better. So I think the sky's the limit for the kid.
As we just mentioned, of course, he was involved in the start of the move, and then he's involved towards the end of the move, giving the ball for Phil.
Yes.
It was a lovely goal, lovely move by him, and an important finish for Phil as well.
Yeah, it certainly was. I think the ball's from Bernardo to Rico. So Rico's making a good run. And as a defender, it's very tough sometimes when people are trying to play on your shoulder. So it's a great ball, perfectly weighted, and then the cutback itself. Again, for a defender, you put yourself into a position where you try and deal with certain danger, but you can't deal with everything. So the placement of the ball is very important. And I think the fact that Phil's making sure he's breaking his back to get into the box, to be coming in from that side, I think that is key. And he's hit it into the ground and it's gone in, But it's a first-time finish in that sort of golden area where the amount of goals are scored. So fair play to them. They know what they're doing, these fellas. It's fair to say, yeah. But,
Shaun mentioned a minute ago, Steph, as well, about being a bit surprised about RB Leipzig. I mean, particularly in that first 30 minutes, they were almost sloppy. I think it surprised us all.
Yeah, I think so. I think we all expected them to be really aggressive and really on the front foot and try and keep City in their half. But for me, I think Leipzig could do a lot better. But at the same time, I think City have just been absolutely unbelievable in what they've done in terms of keeping the possession and that's why they're one of the best teams in the world, is because of how they do that and how everybody moves in sync, and everybody's really comfortable on the ball. And it was a totally dominating performance in the first half. And Leipzig have got to try and come out at some point to try and get something from the game. But I think my worry is if they do that, City are it's just going to play into City's hands to be able to find the space in behind, with the likes of Rico running in behind, but also Haaland as well.
Because they've had no shots on target in that first half. 72% possession for City, 10 shots for City, Shaun, 2 on target. But as we say, no shots on target for Leipzig. And I sort of jokingly said before the game, it might be a goal fest.
No, they didn't have the ball to score a goal. So when you're, I think, I said to Nedum when the game was on, like, it's okay counter-attacking, but counter-attacking from the edge of the box with 2 people against City's 3 or 4 players, it's not something, unless you're incredible skillful, that you can take on those players there just to create more opportunities and space. The likelihood of it, you end up shooting from far, because it takes so long for that support to get to you. But by the time they get to you, all City's team's back, so then they have to try and break City down, which hasn't been happening. So I think on a whole, we've defended really, really well against the counter-attack. And Pep, innit, he's a magician. He set the team up to prevent that counter-attack and dictate the way he wants the game to go.
Talking about that strong defence as well, as we mentioned before, Guardiola back at his old club. He had a couple of nice moves in the first half where he was breaking very speedily down that left side.
He looks
Nedum.
super comfy, the guy. And, you know, he knows those players. He knows that he was probably one of the best amongst those players last season as well. And now he's come back with a better team, with better individuals within it. And he's playing some of his, best football of his career. Still a very young career in that. But he's good, and I think a point that Shaun was making there about, say, Leipzig in transition. What I love about City overall in terms of how they defend is they're patient. So even though at times it seems like they're stretched and we feel an air of tension here, for them, they're not panicking. They're going to make the right decision at the right time. They're not going to overcommit too early, and Guardiola is another example of a player that does just that. So when you have to break them down, like, they're not going to give you anything. You have to find something, because they're waiting for you, and the moment you make a mistake, just come and take it. And Guardiola's a prime example of that.
And I feel like another player that's a prime example of that is Bernardo Silva as well, obviously with his...
Well, he defends differently. He defends a bit differently.
His immense work rate, though. Don't give him the chance.
Yeah, his work rate is definitely there. I think he's covered a lot of ground, so a lot of other people. But, I was trying to give a shout to defenders. And defenders. Bernardo Silva does Bernardo Silva thing.
Yeah. And it is so nice. But we'll go to the attacker, shall we, for it instead. Yeah. It's so nice. Obviously, we've missed Bernardo Silva being away. Lovely to see him back on the pitch with his immense work rate and ready to pounce.
I have to be honest. It looked like he was waiting for his second win to kick in. I think it kicked in towards the 25th minute after that, but you could see, which is only normal when you haven't played for a while through injury, that first 15 minutes is most probably the toughest 15 minutes that people don't realise. So he's there now, and I can imagine he's just going to run himself into the ground like normally Bernardo does.
He did something towards the end of that first half, Steph, and you were just like, he's so good.
Yeah, he's just technically just unbelievable. I think when he's got someone so close to him who's trying to get the ball off him, his footwork's just, he's able to get out of spaces and link up with other people. And I think that's why Pep trusts him so much, pretty much anywhere on the pitch, because when he gets the ball, he hardly ever loses it. But I think, like what Shaun said, we've got to just get him into the game, make sure that he gets some minutes in his legs to get ready for Sunday, and hopefully get the results sorted, and then we can bring some more people on, maybe the likes of John Stones, just to get him ready for the big game against Arsenal on Sunday.
Yeah, of course. I've kind of got one eye on that, trying to do what Pep would say, concentrate on this game, but obviously having one eye on that Arsenal game. Given Bernardo Silva's just come back, do you think Pep might look to protect him in the second half, or do you think it is, like you just said, they're going to be more of a results dependent?
I think if City can go and get maybe another couple of goals quite early on the second half, I think there will be a lot of changes. I think it's important that you keep the team fresh and give players minutes and kind of spread the load a little bit. But I think just try and play him as long as he can, in terms of, we know that he's a fit player, he's one of the fittest players that we have, but I think it is also a little bit of a get this result sorted and then have an eye on Sunday coming.
You were cooing about John Stones. Obviously, he's on the bench today again. I'm trying not to look ahead. I'm looking at Nedum, so I feel like he'll tell me off. But obviously, with Arsenal on Sunday, John Stones is on the bench. Would you like to see him at some point in the second half so he has more of a chance for Sunday?
Yeah, and I think everybody would say the same. I think as a player, especially when those big games are coming up and you're on the bench the game before or after injury, you would like to get at least 15 minutes just so you can feel the ball on the pitch, feel the atmosphere, and get used to being in those little tight areas again. Because if he does play, as we see John Stones, he's always in those tight areas like a Rodri, which nobody thought he could do, but he's done it for me with his eyes closed. I think he's fantastic in that position. I would very much love to see him against Arsenal, especially with Rodri being suspended.
Thank you so much for sending in your WhatsApp questions. You can keep getting those in and I'll try and get through some more now and at full time as well. We're going to go straight to one that's come in from Morgan again because it follows up on talking about kind of having one eye on Sunday. Nathan, don't tell me off. Morgan has said, Rico Lewis has to play against Arsenal.
Has to. He's playing well. If Pep sees a system which requires somebody like him to play a role within a game, I think Rico's capable of doing it. But I don't know what the strategy will be in terms of trying to find that result as such. So maybe, I definitely wouldn't say he's 100% not playing. And as funny as it is, you know, they've got the likes of Kovacic and Nunez and others, but Rico's got more experience than those guys in terms of playing in the City side. So I think that is something that will probably count in his favour. And, you know, as it stands, the setup that Pep's gone for today, none of us saw, and it seems to be a masterpiece. So if another masterpiece is going to be drawn up for the weekend, involves Rico Lewis, more power to him and the manager.
Should we put the question on ice, do you think? Shall we re-ask it again at full time, Steph?
Yeah, I think so. Kind of what Nedum was saying there, when we played Arsenal at home, none of us expected City to go as direct as what we did, and in that A position was De Bruyne, but he played really close to Haaland and we went direct to Haaland, and De Bruyne kind of linked up with the second balls and the knockdowns from him. So I think we've all been sitting here trying to guess the team where Rico's going to play. I mean, he's put himself 100% in contention with that first half performance. It's just where you're going to play him and what type of midfield he's going to play with. Obviously Rodri missing that game. Yeah, I mean, he has the capabilities to go and produce a great performance, but who knows, we're sitting here trying to guess, and Pep's the one to probably ask, to be honest.
I do enjoy it. I know we do it every single game. I do enjoy it. Thank you. That's a great question, Morgan. Do you know what? I'm going to ask it again at full time. Keep your questions coming in, or indeed if you want to send us a message. Nick has messaged us to say that he's travelling in Germany, loving the commentary from the Manchester City half, and the halftime show is brilliant. Yes, Nick, that's the sort of thing that's going to get read out if you message us there. And don't forget, yes, you can get your excellent second half commentary on the Manchester City app with Alistair Mann and with Kit Simons. The only place, I'm always saying it to you, the only place to get your Manchester City commentary. So keep your WhatsApp questions coming in there. So in terms of this second half, Nedum, what do you want to see? More of the same?
More of the same would be nice, but I think Leipzig will be better the second half. I think this has so many similarities to the game at Leipzig last season, when the first half City dominated, they were majestic, and then come second half, you know, we saw the Guardiola goal in the build-up to the game. You know, they came out with a bit more. So I expect them to come out with a bit more, and I just hope that City manage to stick to their ways, don't get too sloppy, and as a consequence, if they stay like that, I think they'll win.
As soon as we see the teams in the tunnel, we will let you know, don't worry. Of course, there is a full fixture list of other Champions League games that are taking place tonight. Just to let you know, ones that may be of interest to you. Also in our group, Red Star Belgrade taking on Young Boys. They are winning at half-time 1-0. So Red Star Belgrade 1, Young Boys 0 at half-time. And the other English team that are playing tonight, Newcastle taking on PSG. It is, of course, their first home Champions League game in 20 years. And they are winning 2-0 at the break. So it's Newcastle 2, PSG 0. And then north of the border, Celtic are playing tonight. Of course, many of us continue to keep an eye on how Joe Hart is getting on. Of course, still much love for Joe Hart in Manchester. And it's currently Celtic 1, Lazio 0. Lazio levelled after Celtic went ahead. Sorry, 1. Lazio 1, apologies. Lazio levelled there after Celtic went ahead. So Celtic 1, Lazio 1. That is some of the other current scorelines that are going on in a very busy Champions League evening. Of course, there were some fun results in the Champions League last night as well. I mean, obviously not so fun if you support another English team, but or either of the English teams. Goodness me, that was some game at Old Trafford last night, Shaun.
Don't really watch the Reds, to be honest with you. But I did see the results. I wasn't watching football yesterday. It was my day off. I spent it with friends and family.
Very nice.
I watched Burnley. That was it, because of Vinny.
Do you keep one eye on Burnley all the time?
Yes. Every time they're on live, I tend to watch it.
Same. Never thought I'd be in that position, but exactly that.
I love that.
Favourite team. Yeah.
Do you have any team that you've got a friend that's involved with that you could keep an eye on, Steph?
Not so much, to be honest. Only City, really, and obviously Sunderland. So the Newcastle result is really killing us at the moment. But yeah, we move on from that one.
Well, thank you, Nedum. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Shaun, as well. Thank you for joining us for this half-time match day live. Of course, we will all be back at full time, where fingers crossed we will be talking about another Manchester City Champions League win. Of course, that would take us to 6 points, would take us top of our group. So the teams are coming out now. Get your commentary on the Manchester City app with Alistair Mann and Kit Simons, and we'll see you in 45 minutes.
Thank you, Natalie. Welcome back to the RB Arena. I think the only thing that we can say is that if you remember the game in Leipzig back in February, the round of 16